Breaking news tonight, the United States Justice Department rejects a new voter ID law in South Carolina, saying it's harmful to minority voters. Republican-controlled states are working overtime to change election laws around the country. Many of these states are key battleground places in the 2012 election. Attorney General Eric Holder said earlier this month the department would investigate these new laws to make sure that they are not violating the rights of voters. Is today's decision just the tip of the iceberg? A lot of these laws have been passed in 5 of the 12 battleground states. Tonight, I'm joined by Vermont Independent Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator, good to have you with us tonight. This is undoubtedly the first big move by the Justice Department since a number of states have passed some laws which many people are interpreting to be voter suppression. Will the voter ID laws in other states be overturned? Is this the tip of the iceberg? How do you view this tonight, Senator?
Well, I think what the Attorney General did in South Carolina is important. It is a first step. He has got to go further. The president has got to start speaking out on this issue. You know, if anybody is involved in voter fraud, Ed, that's a serious problem. The good news is that we don't have much voter fraud in America. What many of these right-wing governors are doing is very clear. They're trying to disenfranchise low-income people, senior citizens, make it harder for them to cast a ballot. And to me, that is not only an outrage, it's something they should be profoundly ashamed of. We all win elections, and sometimes we lose elections. But if you don't have the guts to let people participate fully in the democratic process, you should get another line of work. I would also add that many of these same Republicans think Citizens United is a great idea. Corporations are people, but if you're a low-income person in South Carolina, I guess you can't participate in the political process.
And Senator, I have to ask you, what kind of progress is being made on your amendment in dealing with Citizens United?
Well, we have at this point over 105,000 signers of a petition. We're going to be beginning to work right here in my home city of Burlington, Vermont. A resolution was passed asking Congress to go forward for a constitutional amendment on overturning Citizens United. I think you're going to see that grassroots effort all over the country, Ed.
I hope so. Let's talk now about the payroll tax cut. I know that you're not a big fan of it. And, of course, the unemployment benefit extensions. President Obama set the agenda for this fight in September, way back when. Here it is.
I know that some of you have sworn oaths to never raise any taxes on anyone for as long as you live. Now is not the time to carve out an exception and raise middle-class taxes, which is why you should pass this bill right away.
Senator, are you happy the way this played out, and what can we expect in the coming months?
Well, clearly, in the middle of a terrible recession, the middle class does need tax relief, and I support that. It should be funded progressively by asking the wealthiest people in this country to pay a little bit more in taxes. As you know, I have a problem with cutting the payroll tax substantially because that is money directed into the Social Security Trust Fund, and I worry very much about the future of Social Security. Having said that, Ed, it appears that the Republicans finally are now on the defensive. The Democrats have got to raise the ante. They've got to go back right now, and I intend to play an active role in that, and say jobs is what we have got to talk about, millions of jobs. We have to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure. We have to transform our energy system. We've got to rethink our disastrous trade policy. But what we have got to do is tell the American people, we are on the side of working families who are desperately hurting right now in this recession, almost 25 million unemployed or underemployed, and we are going to take on the big money interests and the corporate interest who are much more concerned about their profits than the well-being of our country.
And finally, Senator, I have to ask you, the Democrats have had a hard time in the last 3 years drawing a line in the sand. What lessons were learned through all of this? And has the mentality of the caucus changed somewhat, that now the game has changed and it's time to be aggressive? And I've said all along, if the Democrats stand with workers, if the Democrats stand with middle-class families, you can't lose. You'll get that power back in the House.
You're exactly right, Ed. Let's hope that the momentum has shifted. In the last 3 or 4 negotiations, Republicans have won. This time the Democrats have won, and the Democrats do need to draw a line in the sand. That line is we are not going to cut Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. We are going to ask the wealthiest people in this country to pay their fair share of taxes. We are going to create the millions of jobs the economy desperately needs. If the Republicans say no, let the American people make their decision about whether or not they want to support Republicans.
Senator Sanders, you are a tireless worker. I hope you have a good holiday weekend, and appreciate all you have done this year fighting for the working families of this country. You're one of my favorites, no question about it. I admire you. You speak up, you tell it like it is, and I appreciate working with you. I appreciate you being on the program tonight. Thanks so much.